Welcome everyone to the International Wellness Alliance monthly mastermind calls. I'm Sebastian. I will be your leader in today's workshop. And we have an amazing guest, my good friend, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, circumnavigator, and world-class public speaking coach, Larry Jacobson. I'm really excited about it. Welcome, Larry, and welcome everybody. And
let's stop now. I love that introduction. Let's just quit there.
Yeah, yes. Before we get started, let me see if I have any other. Oh, yes, I do have. I have some questions for you guys. With a show of hands, how many of you know where's the show of hands button, the raise your hands button? That was a silly question.
You're going to have to teach us.
Let me see if I can see everybody. Maybe not, but there you go. Lower your hands because I have a few questions for you. How many of you are here from the International Wellness Alliance? How many of you are members of the International Wellness Alliance? 3? Okay, wonderful. How many of you got to this call through the coaches support group on LinkedIn? Well, people are pushing each other. Wow.
How many are here by accident?
Say again?
How many are here by accident?
No, nobody. There are no accidents. How many of you are here from the Alignable group? Yay! So this is our first Alignable event. That's so cool. Welcome, guys. This is really exciting. So we'll try to put on at least one, but possibly more every month. And we'll do some that will be purely networking, and we'll do some educational ones. Lots of people expressed interest in learning all kind of public related skills. So we'll do this regularly going forward. All right, so let's jump into it. So we'll start with Larry will tell us how to put together a great presentation. We'll spend hopefully no more than 15 minutes on it. And then we'll go into Q&A. We'll coach you on the spot if you're struggling with a topic or anything, or fear, anything. There's no too basic question and no too advanced. Okay, maybe there's too advanced, because if you ask us about, I don't even know the terms, but there are advanced stuff in public speaking that I don't care. That's like knowing how a car engine works. I don't know how it works. I just need to know how to drive the car. I know how to deliver a powerful speech. I don't need to know the tiny little fancy stuff in there. All right, Larry, the stage is yours.
According to the FBI, you are more trustworthy if you wear a white shirt.
Dan, let me go
on stage. How many people are going to go change now? More people fear public speaking than they do dying.
Hello?
Let me repeat that. More people fear public speaking than they do dying.
Okay, who's this?
Connie, you have to mute yourself.
I'm good. Who is this?
Okay, this is Mr. Winston calling.
All right, let's try that over. More people fear dying than they do public speaking than they do dying. That means if you're at a funeral, more people would rather be in the box than behind the lectern. How many of you would rather be in the box? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to see that. But it is true. So many people fear public speaking. So what I want to start with is, you notice that I had 2 optional beginnings there. We call this, when you're opening your speech, we call this the Big Bang. And it's, you open with a big bang. I didn't come out onto stage and say, hi, I'm Larry Jacobson, and I'm here to talk to you about blah, 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 and thank you for having me. And I'd like to thank the host, and I'd like to thank the company and all those things. No, EG already introduced me. I don't need to go out and reintroduce myself. Just open with a big bang. Something like, let's see. If I were to ask you what the scariest moment of your life was, could you tell me? That engages the audience and it asks them something that is like, wow, what? What? So it gets them really in on the edge of their seat, wanting to hear the rest.
Give us the next sentence. Give us the next sentence on that too, because I really loved it. It wasn't the Komodo dragons. I already know by heart Larry's speeches.
Do you really? I say this was my first TED talk that I did. I said, if I were to ask you what the scariest moment of your life was, could you tell me? And I pause. Okay, Keith doesn't know the scariest moment of his life. For a lot of people, it was learning to ride a bicycle, actually. So, and then I would say, well, if you were to ask me these same questions, the answers might surprise you, because it wasn't being chased by Komodo dragons in Indonesia. It wasn't dodging pirates in the Gulf of Aden. And it wasn't even the worst storm of my life, battling in the Red Sea. And then I go in and talk about this big storm that I went through while sailing up the Red Sea. So right away, I have the audience on the edge of their seats wanting to know more. And they had already introduced me, so that's it.
So let me just interject.
In,
so this is a writer downer, right?
The Big Bang.
Open your speeches with a big bang. Don't say, does the mic work? Make sure you guess the mic before. But besides, probably somebody introduced you. Can everybody hear me there in the back? Hi, I'm Jennifer Johnson. I hope you don't know. Start with a big bang and start with a story, an intriguing question, or a shocking statement, a shocking statistic, whatever you know that is of interest to your audience.
So someone give me an opening. Someone give me a big bang of their speech. Anyone?
What could be an example of opening for you?
How about from serial killers to serial entrepreneurs? Talk about trying to find your ideal client.
From serial killers to...
Okay. Let's
How about this, guys?
Grabs my attention, definitely. Yeah.
Is it
scares me a little bit.
Is it a question to the audience, as in, which one are you?
How
Robert's
about
got his hand up.
How about, is your net working when you're networking?
Whoa, I love that.
Excellent.
I need to write that down. That's a writer downer.
Sure is. And let's see, Keith.
50% of men and 64% of women who die from a fatal heart attack or stroke had no symptoms beforehand.
And I would do like, did you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Did you know that, Bruce? I'd like to welcome Bruce. All right. So anybody else want to try out their opening big bang? I'm busy letting people in.
And actually, this is a great chance if you have a business, like do a secret plug, like you pretend that you're giving you a big bang, but it's actually about your business. If you're a pest control person, then did you know that percent of they don't know until it's too late and it's eating your house? Like I was terrified when I heard about termites, for example. But yeah.
Robert.
Yeah, I'll give you 7 key magic words as it relates to everybody. And it's, you know how, and then it's your challenge or problem. What I do is, and that's the solution as it relates to what you do.
Repeat it.
Networking.
Repeat it.
You know how, whatever it is, you know, the challenge, the problem, the people that the audience you serve, what I do is, and then it goes into your presentation.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Like a mini elevator speech, like a elevator speech formula kind of, yeah.
Yep.
So when we're creating a speech, the first thing that I like to do when I help people is ask them, what's the meat? What is the meat? What is the main point that you want to make with your talk? What is it that you want to say? What do you talk about? What is it? What's the point? What do you want the audience to to think, feel, or do differently at the end of your talk? When they walk out of the room, what do you want them to think, do, or feel differently than they did before they were in there?
Be
So,
more aware of their nutritional intake and their mindset to foods to be healthier.
okay, so how would you open for that?
Well, I'm trying to think of the first one liner. I liked what you said. You know, what was your scariest? If you could tell me what was the scariest time of your life, you know, I would say like something like it wasn't learning to ride a bike or drive a car or even my first real job interview. That can be terrifying, right? It was
Right.
2019 when I fell into partial paralysis because my health had failed me so badly. That scared me.
Was it nutrition related?
Yeah, it was lifestyle nutrition related because our diet can heal our bodies if we have the right mindset to food. And nobody in the medical community is going to talk to you about that because they do not have time and they did not get educated on it.
So
That's
maybe
right.
you could
So
maybe you could open with what you don't know can kill.
could kill you.
In so and so year, I got blah blah blah, and later I found out that it was because of my nutritional habits and all that.
Yeah,
That's right.
I was full of disease states and I was living in chronic pain and misery.
Mhm. That's
And it
fine.
was just bending over after work to pick up my little 9-pound dog and I couldn't get up.
Mm-mm.
So that's
And
the
then I
story.
still haven't gotten the feeling back in my fingers, right?
So that's your story, Sherry. That's your
Mhm.
story that you open with, which is the story about you bent over, pick up your little 9-pound dog, and you couldn't get up.
Mhm.
Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you didn't have one of those buttons that you could press either, probably.
Nope. Lived by myself. There was no one there.
Right. So that can be a very dramatic story.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's your main theme, the meat that you want to that you're trying to teach the audience. You want them to walk out of there thinking, wow, I should really change my diet. And maybe I should ask Sherry to help me.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Is that what you do now? Are you a diet?
Mhm. No, once I cured my body of multiple disease states, I went back to functional medicine school so I could help others do the same thing.
Well, you and I are going to have to talk.
And that's the power of this calls. You connect with some amazing people that can lead to lifetime friendships or life-changing experiences. Yeah.
So
And I am going to preface this. I only have 30 minutes with you guys. I have another appointment that was on my calendar before I could join. So, but we'll get together, Larry.
very good. So after you've opened with your big bang, after you've pretty much set the stage for the main point that you're going to say, then you want to give us a promise. So when we walk out of here today, we're going to have a different viewpoint of food, and we're going to understand that food can heal us. So you're going to have to say that in a better way. E.g., we'll put it in better words, I'm sure. But that's your big promise, if you will. So that's the next thing that you're thinking about is your big bang and your big promise. What are you going to promise the audience that they're going to look to feel, do, think differently after this? And then you want to give us a roadmap. So when I did my first TED talk, I talked about the name of it was called Passion Trumps Fear. And it was well before the current use of that word. But passion trumps fear, meaning that all those fearful times that I was scared when I was sailing around the world, it didn't matter because passion drove me. Passion drove me through all of those fears and kept me going. And then I wanted to teach the audience how to manage their fears. And so I gave them a 2-step plan on how to manage their fears. So you're going to tell us after your big bang and your promise, what's the roadmap? How are we're going to get you there? There are 4 steps to changing your diet habits, or there are 6 steps, or this is a 2-month plan. I'm going to walk you through what you're going to do each week, or something like that. So the audience can follow along with you, and they can say, oh, well, I know right where she is in her talk, because we're on step 4, and she promised me that there was going to be 6 steps to this process. You don't have to say it in steps. It could be keys. It could be anything that you like, but just give us an idea of how we're going to get there. Okay. Any questions about that? Has anybody ever heard a talk like that where someone gives the steps? Yeah, you have. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes, I have.
right.
Can I get a little shot at this? I want to get some practice in here. Yeah.
But I think
Can
that's
you,
Michael.
Michael, can you share your screen? I mean, can you show your face if possible?
Of course, having a bad hair day, but why not?
That's all right. Love the picture, but I would love to see.
Here
Hey,
I
you've
go.
got
Hey,
hair.
everybody.
Hey,
There you go.
Okay.
Hello.
So listen. So like you were saying, I guess you want a thunderous beginning to your talk. So what if I was to say that? What if I told you that today you could have a law firm in the palm of your hand?
I would be curious.
Right. Right. And so then on what was the next step you said after the
give a promise.
Then give
right?
us, well, you're going to give us a promise. You're going to explain that.
okay. So and then I would go into this. Okay. So I would say something like every day in North America, every day people face unexpected legal situations and are not prepared financially or emotionally for these unexpected legal problems.
So
May I
actually
may I critique?
the
May I
promise,
critique on that?
yeah.
I want to hear it more personal. How do you know that? What was the story that made you aware of this?
Okay, so what made me aware of it is the story of our founder, actually, Mr. Harlan Stone Cipher, who was in a car accident and he was being sued, and he was not prepared financially or emotionally for that outcome. And so he made a decision that day that no longer will people not be able to afford and be able to assess the justice system due to cost.
So how about something like, one day my friend was in an accident, a car accident, and while he was lying there waiting for the ambulance to come, he was looking up at the sky, wondering if he was going to make it, and if this were to go to court, how he was going to deal with it.
Right.
And right then on the spot, that's when he had the inspiration. I mean, we can make
Right.
that story a lot more interesting
Or
too.
maybe while
Okay.
recovering, maybe because when I lay there, maybe I'm thinking,
Right.
am I going to hell or heaven or what's going on happen?
Right. And
Yeah.
this can't just be happening to me. This must be happening to others as well.
Exactly.
Has anybody in the audience ever had something like this happen to them? So everything you say in a talk should be about the audience in this way. If you are telling a story, like I tell stories about my sailing trip around the world, okay, that's nice. People in the audience are thinking, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but how does it affect them? What does my story mean to them? What does it mean to the audience? They don't really care that I sailed around the world. But what they want to know is, well, what did you learn that I can apply to my daily life, Larry? So that's where I'm teaching them about fear.
So in the promise, there should be also mention of what the outcome is, right? So something about, in this case, something about how to avoid paying thousands or tens of thousands or in legal costs, right?
I'm going to teach you how to avoid. You're going to walk out of here with 7 keys to avoiding this legal situation. I assume you work for somebody like LegalZoom or something like that. Michael.
Legal Shield.
Which is a great organization. I agree.
Right. So, who had their hand up? I thought I just saw someone. Kasia, were you scratching your cheek?
I was scratching my head.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. So you've given us a big bang. You've given us a promise. You've given us a roadmap how we're going to get there. And then you want to transition into to make sure that we understand the meat of your talk, which is your foundational phrase. Your foundational phrase can be the name of your talk, but it can be, or it can be something else, but it should be something that really anchors your talk, the foundational phrase. So in my case, it happened to be the title of my speech, which was Passion Trumps Fear, meaning that passion will always drive you through any fears that you have. All right. So who else? Let's see if anybody can give us a foundational phrase. I think Robert probably could do that because
before somebody gives an example, so the foundational phrase would not come after the roadmap, but it could go in the Big Bang, also in the promise, anywhere, right?
Absolutely. As long as it's in kind of the earlier stages of the talk, and then you're going to come back to it at the end to reinforce your foundational phrase. They're going to walk out of there with, wow, there's only 2 steps to managing my fears. That's cool. I can do that. And they are 1, 2.
And I call it a transformational promise. I think
you call it whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
I call it a foundational phrase.
Yeah.
Because it is the foundation for your talk, basically. And preferably these, when we make a point, what's the best way to make a point? Anybody? Who's in sales?
Ask a question.
What's the ask a question? Good answer, but no.
Okay.
Robert.
Offer a solution.
Offer a solution. Good answer, but no. Thank you for playing.
Repeat the question.
What's the best way to make a point?
Use a pencil sharpener.
Tell a story.
Audience.
Tell a story.
Tell a story. Tell a story. Okay. So Michael's story was.
You don't have kids, Larry. I tell a story and then I make a point, and then my daughter will be like, Daddy, that long story for that little point.
Here's a point. Here's an idea, E.G. Shorten your story.
No. The with your kids, it's a little different. But when you present your data, anything, any topic, when you present, if you present it dry, like you say, these are the 3 steps to improve your nutrition, people will remember it for a whole 2 hours. And then they will forget. By next day, they forget 80%. But when you put it in a story format for each point, they will remember the story. And because they remember the story, they will remember the point. So it is the most powerful way to anchor your points in your audience's mind.
It is so very true. They will remember the story. I'll bet you that anybody who has listened to my TED Talk, the first one, can remember the story of us sailing up the Red Sea. Right? I mean, there we were battling 30-foot seas. We had been awake for 24 hours. It was cold. We were alone. We were shivering. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And for about a minute. And by the end, you probably will have goosebumps. So you have to listen to the TED Talk. I couldn't do it today.
But Larry, I just interject that story is a large frame. You just did something more than tell a story. You gave an image. So it's the image that implants the story in the brain. So you said you were cold, shivering, going up the sea. In that, you encapsulated the drama of the moment.
So absolutely. There are 2 ways to tell a story.
That's absolutely right, though. What Bruce says is, if you can paint a word picture with your story, that's what they're remembering, is that picture. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, there are 2 main ways to tell a story. We got on the boat and we traveled from San Francisco to here and there. There was a storm, 30-foot high waves. It was scary. And then we did this, and then we did that. It's chronological. It's boring. It's dry. or you paint with words. So what Larry does in his TEDx talk, he paints with words. I mean, I can feel the pressure in my chest. I feel the fear as he's telling the story. Make sure to go to his website, to larryjacobson.com. His TED Talks are there. But yeah, paint with words.
Yeah, I get shaky just thinking about it, actually. But that's because I was there.
Larry, our 15 minutes presentation will be up in 2 minutes. So go.
That's going to get us started. The rest of the structure of the speech is, if you have a point, you can make your point no more than 10 minutes per point. I mean, no more than 1 point per 10 minutes. So it takes, generally speaking, about 10 minutes to make a point, and the audience can't remember more than 1 point per 10 minutes. So in my TED Talks, I'm giving, the first one, I give 1 point. In the second TED Talk that I did, I gave 3 points in 23 minutes, I think, or something like that. And that was pushing it. And I recently reviewed a speech that I had given about retirement, in which I gave 8 points in 40 minutes. And I gave myself a D- score on that speech. It was a great speech, but it was way too much information. The audience just can't handle it. Keith is laughing. It's true. I mean, I don't know if I could have handled that. You'd have to be scribbling, and writing everything down. So, all right. So, and then when you wrap up your speech, so you make a point for 10 minutes and you wrap it up, call back to what you talked about in the beginning. So Sherry's going to review. She's going to say, okay, so, she basically wants us to remember that there are 3 points or 4 keys to changing your diet for better health, or something like that.
Did you call it the callback?
I said, call back. You call back to something earlier that you had said, and you need to conclude. In the simplest forms, it's like writing, in the sense that open, tell me what you're going to tell me, then tell it to me, then tell me what you told me. Everybody have that? It's pretty easy. And if there's multiple points, you do each one over again.
So in your case, you opened about what was the biggest fear of your life. And if you asked me, when you do the callback, what is your callback?
My callback is I close with a bang. So I close with a story. With a story that talks about how passion drove me through all of my fears, which is a reminder, a callback to what I opened with. And it's a dramatic story about how we completed the circumnavigation.
So the callback can be separate and the big bang closing can be separate, or it can
yes,
be.
but they should be tied together somehow. So you can say, well, in fact, what I said was, it wasn't Komodo dragons, it wasn't dodging pirates, it wasn't this storm. And then I go on with the talk. Later on in the talk, I come back to this. I bet you're interested in what the scariest moment of my life was. And then I tell them what that was. But the passion drove me through that fear. Anybody want to guess what the scariest moment of my life was?
What?
No, you don't know. Well, I mean, couldn't be being chased by Komodo dragons or dodging pirates in the Gulf of Aden.
Giving your first speech.
And no, it wasn't that, actually. I bet you Brian knows. It was the day that we sailed out the Golden Gate.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
At the beginning of my trip, because I was
The
leaving
anticipation and
behind.
fear. Anticipation and fear, right?
Well, no, it was fear. It was fear. I was leaving everything behind: my career, my identity, my home, my friends, everything. I didn't know when I was going to return, and we were sailing out the Golden Gate. I had never navigated a boat across a 3,000-mile ocean before. I really didn't know what I was doing, and I went anyway. And I
didn't know if you will return at all, right?
I didn't know if I'd return at all. In fact, I kind of expected not to. I really thought the sea would get me. There's 1,000 ways to die out there. But we made it. So, all right. Let's go. Let's wrap that up and go into questions. Well, wait a minute. Let me do one more thing. And notice how I'm not waiting for questions to the very end. How many of you have ever answered, given a talk where you asked for questions at the end? Come on, I know you have. Yes, okay. Don't do that, because people remember what they hear at the beginning and they remember what they hear at the end. And if somebody in the audience were now to pipe up and ask a question like, so Larry, when did you start losing your hair? Okay, that's what they're going to remember, is that last question. And I don't want them to remember that last question. I want them to remember the last important thing that I said to them, or the last thing I wanted to leave them with, or that I wanted them to do, think, or feel differently. So I might say something like, okay, let's, I'll make a point. Then I would ask for questions. And after a few minutes of questions, no more than 5 minutes, if you're in a 45-minute keynote, I would then say, all right, we're going to wrap up now. And then I would give my closing story, my closing big bang. So that's what we end the speech with, not questions and answers.
So there are more roads that lead to Rome. So that's one way to do it. And I used to do it like similarly like that. And then starting about 15 years ago, I learned it from somebody and I loved it. I tell people that if you have any questions at any time, just feel free to write them down. And at the end of the session, we'll have time for those. And I do usually full day workshops. So I will do a Q&A at the end before lunch. And then towards the end, not at the end, towards the end. And then I end with my closing. I used to do it at the end, but as Larry said, if I do it at the end, the session ends in a
That's right.
So I'm missing out on a big applause, on a stand-up ovation, maybe. So standing ovation. So I have the Q&A session, and then I will wrap it up with a powerful closing, and then I get my big applause. So on a camera, it looks way better when you have a big applause at the end than just well, thank you all. That was it. See you. Have a great
Right. Thanks for that last question. Yeah, I'm gonna go look and see if I really am losing my hair right now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but now we're opening to questions.
So before we go to questions, let me just remind everybody, and I will actually, Elaine put the link there. Those of you who are not a member of the International Wellness Alliance and you work with people on health or wellness, mental health related topics, please join us. Even if you are unrelated, you can join us because we serve also, if you have services for health and wellness professionals, you can join us, even Legal Shield. So make sure to join us. And if you live in the Asheville area, check out our community at here, I'm putting it, loical.com. So that's a B2B barter network where people trade their services and products. Very cool network.
Very cool. Very cool service. Very cool company. I agree. And now I'd like to answer Michelle's question.
Go ahead.
Michelle had a question: is ideas to help with stage fright? No, there are none. You're stuck, Michelle. Sorry. No, that's not true. All right. So a couple of things that you can that will help you with your stage fright. One, be prepared. Be prepared, prepare. Go over your speech so many times that you can say it forwards and backwards in the bathtub. That is, with that, and you walk out there with that confidence that you know what you're going to say and you know your topic so well because you've practiced and prepared. That's the number one. The next is what I do anyway, is I backstage or before I come in front of the camera here, I do breathing exercises. And the breathing exercises I do are in through the nose and out through the mouth, deep breath, like and I do that 6 times. And when I come in with the breath, I bring my arms up to the top and I say, I am king. I'm the king. Or in your case, you might be the queen, right? So it just gives me that, first of all, the breathing exercise gives, calms your body, calms you down completely. I don't start going over my talk because I've already done that so many times. I remember when I gave my first TED talk, I had the goal of 100 times. I gave my talk 100 times to a video camera. The second one is third one is video yourself. Don't just tape it, but video, or is that called video? I used to say videotape.
Yeah, video record yourself.
That's what us old people would say, but you don't need it on tape. You can just record it, yes. But record the video so you can see what it is that you do. When I did that the first time, I noticed, and I still have the tendency to move too much, to move around. And I didn't know that until I videoed myself. So I still do it occasionally, but all right. Other ideas, e.g. for dealing with stage fright.
Yes.
Oh, one more. For me, Michelle, I don't eat before going on stage. And part of the reason for that is when you eat, your body is digesting the food, and that takes energy. And I want full energy on the talk and on the stage and on the audience. Another idea is before your talk, if it's a talk in person, try to meet some of the audience. So you have friends in the audience. Now, if you can get friends to come and listen, that's great. But if not, go out into the audience or go into the lobby where they're mingling or whatever, wherever it is, and say hello. Just say, hi, I'm Michelle. I'm your speaker today. Thanks for being here. And then when you're giving your talk, you have friends that you can look at, right? You just met Mike. So you can kind of look at Mike, and Mike will smile back at you. And he knows that, because you've met each other and you're friends. That's a really important tip.
So we always go to our events at least a day in advance. And whenever we can, most of us speakers, we have dinner with either the leadership team or with some of the participants, and sometimes with all of the participants, because they rent a hotel and it's kind of an outing for the attendees. And then the next day I have breakfast with them if I can, and usually do. And before the event, I'm there, of course, early. And as people trickle in, I will not be messing around with my stuff. I will prepare everything early. I will communicate with them. I will talk to them. And by the time I start my presentation, I can refer back. I already know many people in the audience, and I can refer to things that I heard from them. I even ask them sometimes, whoa, that's powerful. Can I mention it in my talk? Right? Because they share with me some challenges or some successes. So that's always helps.
What helps is and this is a question that may or may not come up, but you might be thinking it. Where do I look when I'm speaking? Where do I look? Do I look at kind of over the audience or what? No, it's look to one, speak to all. So right now I'm looking at Mike. I'm trying to catch his eyes, but he's writing down, so I don't have that chance.
So
but I'm looking at Paola.
Mm-hmm.
She's looking right back at me. I'm looking at Brian. He's looking right at me. So I look at Brian, I catch his eyes, but I'm looking at him, but I'm speaking to all.
So Larry never really had fear of public speaking, or not major fear. I used to have a phobia of public speaking. And one of the things that helped me was, and this is, I will tell you some other methods, but now that we're talking about this, find one smiling, friendly face in the audience and talk to that person, and then look around at the other people and come back to this person. And then again, you look around and you find another smiling, friendly person. I learned that it's called fanning, right? And then you keep finding more and more smiling people. And after a while, you will feel like everybody's on your side, and
Right.
It just warms you. But
and if you smile, chances are they'll smile back.
Correct. Also, visualize your speech. Go mentally through your speech. And I don't think I've ever managed to go through the whole speech, especially because I do full day workshops usually. But even my keynotes, I don't know if I ever went. But visualize you being there and smiling and presenting. And when you visualize, hi all. Hey, I'm a little nervous. This is only my third time. So today I will talk about. Dang, I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. No, visualize and see yourself delivering your ideal speech. And if you don't like to call it fake it, don't call it fake it. But I believe in fake it till you make it. I was horrified the first couple of times. I gave my speeches in a trance. I could literally watch myself from outside because I practiced so much. I was just giving my keynote. The first one was keynotes, not even workshops. And my first keynote was horrible. The audience didn't know though. Well, most of the audience didn't know. They still came up to me. One of them later at night, he was really drunk and he was like, man, that was a life-changing presentation. Thank you so much. It was an international event. But yeah, so visualize your speech and present as you know that you should be presenting.
It is like if you can picture in the Winter Olympics when you see the skier at the top of the hill, they're just about to go down the slalom, and that skier is standing there, and you can see them going.
Mm-hmm.
They are visualizing the entire course, making that left turn, making that right turn, making that big swoop around the bend. They're visualizing the entire course in advance. Same thing.
So I use this. Go ahead.
Ella has a question.
Just let me just finish this. So I use this many times in the beginning. I don't know, 20, 30, 50 times. I don't remember. Not a single time did it go as I envisioned, because I envisioned where the people will be laughing, where they will be like serious. No, the laughter came when I didn't anticipate it, and they stayed serious when I expected laughter. But every time it surprised me how great it went though. So the key was to just get out there and do it. Who had a question, Larry?
Ella did.
Ella, go ahead, Ella. And then Robert.
Is it still appropriate to have notes? And if so, how do you use your notes?
Great question.
Great question.
We will give you two different answers.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. So I write out all my speeches. I write them out word for word. And that doesn't mean I say them word for word, but that's how I practice them. So I write it out first, so I learn not to go off on tangents about a particular topic or a particular point. Then if it's a keynote, I'm old. My memory is failing me. So it's a little bit more challenging for me, I think. Some people memorize things easily. I don't necessarily. So if it's an important keynote and I know there's a lectern there, what I do is I write my notes on 8.5 by 11. I print them out. I print out exactly where the slide is supposed to be turned. So I know my button that I'm supposed to click right then. And then I bring my speech out onto the stage if there's a lectern with a 3-ring binder. It's in a 1-inch 3-ring binder. And each sheet of paper is put into a plastic protective sheet so that when you turn the page, you can't hear and you can barely see a page turning. And I have that in front of me. It doesn't mean I use it all the time. Like I leave the lectern, walk out onto other parts of the stage to make points. And then I might walk back to the lectern, turn a couple of pages to see where I'm at. And then continue on. I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally. And the reason that I believe that that's okay is I watched Barack Obama do it. And he did it a lot. He would come out there with a binder. So did multiple presidents. And if they can walk out there with a binder, then why can't I? So, but I don't say it word for word, but I have practiced it so many times word for word that's going to come out pretty close to what the written version is. And it's important because there are time limits. You can't just ramble on and keep going. And then you go, oh, I forgot my most important point because I'm out of time now. And especially if you're thinking about giving a TED Talk, you have 20 minutes or 18 minutes or 22 minutes. They will tell you, and it's never longer than that. So whatever they're telling you, you have to fit it into that. When I gave my first TED talk, they were so serious about this. They had somebody, there was about 400 people in the audience, and they had somebody sitting in the front row holding an iPad that was just a timer, a countdown timer. And this woman was sitting right in the front, and I saw her, and they pointed out that that's where she's going to be sitting. And in about 10 minutes, she holds this thing up, and it says 10 minutes, right? There's 10 minutes left. At 50, when it had gone 15 minutes, she's going like this, holding it up, making sure I see it. At 17 minutes, it's above her head. She's going like this, right? Like, Larry, you've got 1 minute left, right? So it's really important in that sense for timing.
Very cool. Ella, what is yours? What kind of presentation do you plan to give?
A keynote or a workshop or
Keynote.
Okay, so for my keynotes, yeah, I write it out usually, but at times it depends on the keynote. At times I just have bullet points, but I still write out the main parts. And while I drive, while I take a shower, while I walk the dog, I will say the keynote and I will look at my notes. And also I record it. And while I drive, I listen to the recording because it anchors. I'm really bad at memorizing stuff. So I need bullet points. So even, for keynotes, I will have like maybe an index card just with the main points on the lectern. And I do not stand behind the lectern. But if I lose the track of my thought, then I will look up and then
do you have it printed on the ceiling?
I will walk to the lectern and nonchalantly glance at my thing, and then I will continue from the next point. Don't apologize. Don't say, "Oh crap, I forgot." Right. So when I do workshops, if I lose the track of my thought, I will say, "Dang, I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?" And they will tell me. There's no. I have zero nervousness about it. That's no problem. But in a keynote, I don't know if I would do that. Yeah.
One thing to remember is that the audience is on your side.
Yes.
The audience wants you to succeed. They don't want to see you fall on your face up there on stage. They want to help you. So they're not going to criticize you because you couldn't remember something. So that's why I leave it on the lectern and come back to it occasionally when I need that.
Brian, you were about to say something.
So there's a couple of things. One, the idea of using a notebook works really well, and actually put them in the glassine type of things. The other thing is that put in timestamps in there, because it helps benchmark where you need to be. So just kind of put in those timestamps. I'm a type of person like you, Larry, that I will start at the lectern or whatever, and then I go wander. Right. But I want to make sure that I come back to and making sure I work within that time frame. So having those time frames as, hey, you should be at this point. The other thing I want to share with you a quick stage fright moment in time, and it was one of my most heroic and least heroic times. I was a junior in high school, and I always worked behind the scenes in theater group, right? And we had a very robust program, theater group. And so we were into our third performance out of 8 or 9 performance, and the director, 45 minutes before, got a call and said, "Guess what? The understudy isn't here." Okay. Guess what? The actor isn't here. You've been through all the programs and stuff because you're all doing the support, the lighting, and the set design. You're it.
And you're about 14 years old, and you're
well, I was about 16. So I was about 16, right? So, and we have a large theater, 1,500 people. My friends are in there and that kind of stuff, and I'm doing it. So got to get a costume fit, got to get everything together. I got this, not a problem. Comes up 10 minutes before your line, 5 minutes before your line, 5 minutes before your line. All of a sudden, I start to walk out, and I promptly threw up on stage. Boom! It was the chunky thing that you ever seen, because Larry said, don't eat before, but I didn't know.
Thank you.
I had gummy bears and potato chips and soda. So you can imagine how that was going to look.
So you should give presentations about public speaking. That's a great intro.
It dribbled on my costume, and I have to go out. Luckily, I got through it. But a lot of times when you give a presentation, it's that getting started part is the tough part. And once you're in that cadence and rhythm, all the speech gods come in alignment and everything flows just very well.
Yep.
But the moral of the story is don't eat before a performance. And if you know the lines, don't worry, trust what you know. And as Larry said, people are rooting for you. I got a half standing ovation. I didn't get a full standing ovation, but I got a half standing ovation, and I'll never forget that as long as I live. That
Well,
was
I'm
my
giving you one now.
first
That's pretty amazing.
first stage thing. I won't tell you what the performance was. It was fantastic, but I won't tell you what the play was. But it was a lot of fun.
That
That's
was
awesome.
Great storytelling there. Yeah.
Yes, great
That would be a
storytelling.
very engaging intro if you were speaking about giving a presentation on public speaking, and start with that. I mean,
yeah,
very funny, very visually engaging,
and easily visual too.
Yes. So I knew I could not become not public speaker, but I could not do public speaking because I cannot memorize. You know, like I would see Tony Robbins doing full day presentations up on the stage, spitting words out and going fast and all that. I'm like, I could never do that. And besides, I had a phobia. So that's another thing that I could, like literally, if I had to speak in public occasionally, like say a couple of words, after about 30 seconds, my voice would start shaking. I would have this very big stomach cramp. My knees would feel really soft and my voice would start shaking and I would break down and cry. Like I learned the technique. I would turn away, take a deep breath because I could not, because my chest was constricted, and I would turn back and I will quickly wrap up and just sit down. And yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. So what people don't know is that before I got to talk to in front of a crowd, there was some really hard work. And I tell you a little bit about that hard work that I did, but I want to tell you about zoning out. So like in the beginning, when I was presenting in my first, I don't know, 10, 20 workshops or keynotes, occasionally I would forget what I was saying. I forgot like completely. I would zone out and I would get these big eyes, stare at the floor trying to remember, and then look up at the PowerPoint and go from the next point. Like completely in mid-sentence, I would just zone out. Starting in year 3 or 4, I don't know. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. If I lose the track of my thought, I have zero hesitation, no embarrassment. I just say, what was I saying? What was I saying? And the audience will tell me, and I just continue. And they love you for that, you know. You're just a human just like them. But to get over your fear of public speaking, you can do a couple of things. One, as Larry said, prepare. That's the biggest thing. Number 2, if possible at all, talk about something that you know and you're passionate about. Once you start talking, yeah, when you start talking, you will feel a little self-conscious, but take on the persona of a confident person and present in that spirit. And then once you start talking, you'll be surprised, like, whoa. I mean, I just coached a lady. She was a nervous wreck. She had to give a pitch in front of the investors, and she invited me to go. And even though I was so busy, I went because she said, I need at least one friendly face in there. Nobody could have told that this was her first presentation. When she started talking, she was a little nervous, but it was a topic of her passion. She built a passion business, and she was funny. She was joking. She was messing around with the audience. I'm like, wow, I was so proud of her. She wrote me an amazing LinkedIn testimonial. So yeah, prepare, talk about your passion. And the biggest mistake to avoid, do not try to cover too much. I've been through that mistake many times.
Yes.
Giving 10 things and 3 points in each of those 10 things because I want to give the audience everything because I love them. No,
right.
Leave them wanting more. So that's another thing, and practice. Join Toastmasters. Some people will talk trash about Toastmasters. Usually it's the people who've never been at the Toastmasters meeting, or maybe they've been at one Toastmasters meeting. When I went to my first Toastmasters meeting, I could not wait to get out from there. Fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, Mr. Toastmaster, this Toastmaster, it was so rigid. I'm like, oh my gosh, I will never come back here. Why did people keep pushing me to join? And then David Zanon stood up and he gave a speech. And he's like, I am a has-been. I've been a CEO, I've been a pro tennis player, and now at 84, all I am is a has-been. I'm afraid to open the newspaper and look at obituaries because I'm afraid I will see my name there. But then, so he captured me from the beginning, but the rest of his speech was so motivational. It was like I was listening to Tony Robbins. And I'm like, wow, I want to be like David Zanon. I'm coming back. I was a Toastmaster for about 15 years, area governor for 2 years, president for 5 years. Toastmaster changed my life in ways that I cannot express, increased my confidence, and I became the speaker I became because of Toastmasters.
That's awesome.
So practice, 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 and Toastmasters is a great club to help you with that.
Well, maybe next time I'll tell a story about why I was kicked out of Toastmasters.
We have a couple of questions. Robert, you have a question or comment?
Comment more, and I'll go with you about Toastmasters. When I started with Toastmasters, but then, and this relates to, I think it was Ellis asked about, memorizing or whatever. When I started, you probably remember a guy by the name of Bill Gove. And I started taking lessons from Bill Gove. And the two things he taught me is, number one, getting over the audience, which he covered. And the other part was having 5-minute vignettes, what he called them. Now, I've sort of shifted that more to, I use acronyms, I've got different acronyms, and that way I can stay on track, because I don't want to memorize something. I want to, from my perspective, I like to be authentic. And the other part that I will comment about is you want to be aware of your self-talk. For example, when I started off speaking, I would have some kind of self-talk that I forgot to tell the audience this, or when I started speaking, I was, speaking on stage with many of the iconic speakers, and I'd be talking to myself, I'm a duck out of water. And it's like, you can always shift your self-talk. Right now, my business partner is a CSP, and he's given over 1,200 paid speeches, and we did a talk last night about storytelling. But again, it's like, be aware of your self-talk and shift your self-talk so it's more favorable as it relates to, I'm consistently improving my speaking ability. The audience loves me because I've got something very meaningful that is going to be worth their time, that be relevant as it relates to me communicating it with them. So that's all I've got to mention.
When I go in to present, I go in with the mentality that I'm meeting a bunch of friends, a bunch of nice people, and I will share, I will help them, I will share something that they can use.
Right. Just have a conversation. It's like you're having a conversation, but you're the lead in the conversation.
And one of the feedback that comes back regularly on the feedback forms for me, which I highly encourage everybody to use the feedback form, is that very conversational, love the stories, love the conversational style. And by the way, I too use a 3-ring binder. And in the first years, I would tell people that, and to make sure that I don't rip you off, and that I share everything that I need to share with you, I will keep track here. I have bullet points here to make sure that I share everything. And I had it nicely worded. But starting about 15 years ago, I stopped saying anything. I have a 3-ring binder. I might walk around with it in the full day workshop, because I sit sometimes on desks. And
do you use waterproof paper to practice in the shower?
If somebody asked if I do that in the shower. No, in the shower, I will practice without notes. And while driving, I don't look at my notes yet, because
So when I gave my first TED talk, it's a long time ago, but I was so panicked about the whole idea of it. I mean, I wanted it. I really wanted to do it, and I was excited. But I hired a memory expert.
Wow.
And I took his memory courses to learn how to memorize that speech.
So,
Bruce.
So
Bruce has you're muted, Bruce.
Hold on just for a second, because the hour is up. If anybody needs to leave, Mike Hardin asked the question. What do you do to prepare for a speech? Okay, so we answered that. Very good.
Yeah.
You practice in front of an audience, record. Yeah, record yourself. That's crucial. Like I noticed that I put my hand in the pocket, which is not a big deal, but I was jiggling my key in my pocket. And the other thing was that as I talk, I touch my nose. So yeah, through recording, and I was hunching a little bit. So yeah, recording yourself is priceless. It's your best. And also you notice certain mannerisms that you repeat. So you can cut back on that. And there's no problem. Don't beat yourself if you say, and oh crap, I said
Oh,
it's okay.
no.
You can say
No, you can't.
You can.
No, oh no. See, now here we go.
So
oh no, no uhs, no ums. That's just instead
my mentor Tom Antion gave a speech, and people stood in line at the end to shake his hand, get a signature in his book, like his autograph and all that. And this lady stays in line for like 20 minutes, and she says, Tom, it was a great speech. Here, this will help you improve it a little bit. You had 57 ahs and ums, and you had 32, you know what I means, and
42 likes.
Tom is a wonderful guy and a lovable asshole. He said, lady, you see that line back there? And there was a line, people standing in line to sign up for his $5,000 program. And he says, today I will make about $80,000. Do you think I will give a? He said, yeah. How many ahs or ums I have? And he's the golden recipient of the honorary Toastmaster thingy.
Well, maybe he would have made 90,000.
The key is to give your message. Don't get nervous. Don't get self-conscious if you say or just.
But people will ask you, e.g., what do I do instead?
Silence. Become comfortable with
there
silence.
we go. I knew we would agree eventually.
Yes, but don't be self-conscious. Don't beat yourself. Don't apologize. It's okay if you accidentally say or
pause. Simply just pause, because that's all you're doing.
It's the most powerful thing of a speech. You think it's your words,
no, it's
but it is the pause in between your words.
Right. No uhs, no ums.
Like when you talk, you keep it because it gives the audience a chance to process what you are saying. In the beginning, because we are nervous, we ramble. We don't like to have a pause, but that's why we will be like you know what I mean? No, just pause, and that will make your speech way more memorable, and you come across as a professional.
Thank you. Now, can we have Bruce's question?
It wasn't so much a question as it was I was thinking about your getting professional help, which I also did the first time I had to give a speech. I was phobic about public speaking my whole life, and though I was a reporter, I used to hide behind the question asking. But the first time I had to give a big speech was at the Museum of Natural History in New York City for the Margaret Mead Festival. And I was presenting on a filmmaker whose name was Paul Fayouche, one of the first ethnographic filmmakers in the world. And I was talking about recently acquired knowledge and in front of a great body of people who knew the subject much better than I did. So just to, and I was panicked. And so I knew a hypnotherapist whose name was Sidney Rosen. He's now deceased, but he was a great hypnotherapist. And I went to him and I did hypnotherapy. And Sidney gave me a couple of really great tips. And literally, I was so anxious that I used to develop hives. I looked like the elephant man when I would speak. And Sidney's methodology was to, after you've kind of done what you've said, practice and practice, before you give your speech, take your material 20, 30 minutes ahead of time and just glance through it. Just take it and whip through it. Don't do it for more than a minute. And then he had taught me how to do self-trance, and it's just like a finger press, 1 minute self-trance to lower the heart rate. And then just go out and do it with the self-talk that you describe, EJ, of, I know this material. That's part of your trance. I know my material. I'm going to be effective at giving this speech. And I went out that night. I had never given a speech to as many people, never really successfully given a speech before. And because I followed that, Dr. Rosen's very good advice, it worked, and it changed my life. It literally changed my life to realize that I wasn't going to, first of all, I wasn't going to be turned into the elephant man in front of everybody, and I was going to actually deliver on what I was supposed to. So, I'm here to say, you can be as a cripple to fear, which I was, and overcome it.
Yes, excellent. And now you've given how many speeches? Hundreds. Awesome.
And Larry is available.
And the woo-woo stuff, it sounds woo-woo. That's what I always used to say. Oh, that all sounds woo-woo. No, the woo-woo is real.
And Larry is available for public speaking coaching if anybody needs help. And occasionally I take on clients as well.
I think you both did. I just want to say, put it in notes, but I think you both did a really great job of giving an outline today of showing the path to giving an effective speech. Both really, hats off to both of you. Great job.
Thank you, and great having you. And if anybody needs to leave, we understand we are over the hour. And those of you who want to stay, especially if you didn't have a chance to ask a question, make sure to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask. But I just want to share this really quickly. In the beginning, I had a commitment not to say no to any invitation to speak. And I got invited to speak at a counselor's conference. And I was speaking on the DISC behavioral model. And I was so self-conscious because I knew that they knew the topic way better than me. They went to college, they studied personality styles, they studied counseling, right? What am I doing talking about this to counselors? And I was so terrified. And so I prepared and I did my best to bring my best content. And they were blown away. Many of them never heard about this personality model or other. They weren't versed in any behavioral models. And I got voted the highest rated at that conference. And actually I volunteered. They found $850 and they paid me.
Wow, and these days that's rare. Well, and also when you're talking, I remember one of the first times I gave a talk it was at the Long Beach Yacht Club, and this was just after returning from my circumnavigation, and these people in the audience were sailors. I mean, they were serious sailors and racers, and so I realized that, well, they know sailing really well and they know boats, and so I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the emotional parts about achieving sailing around the world, which none of them had done. So you're looking at it from a different angle, a different point of view, and you could talk about the same subject that they're well versed in, but coming from your point of view, your angle, it is still going to make an impact.
Very cool. Any final questions before we say loving goodbyes? And I'm not trying to wrap up. We will stay for another 10 minutes if anybody has questions or comments. Marilyn, is any burning question forcing you to ask?
No, she doesn't have one. Okay.
I know she was taking notes madly, so that's really cool.
No, I was just sending a quick email. Thank you for the invite. I was just saying I had to run right now, but I thoroughly enjoyed the event and I will be back. And
Wonderful.
Thanks a lot.
Great having you. Great having you.
Hey, Bruce, have you met Keith Robinson?
I sent him a couple of chats.
Okay. I thought maybe you would have something in common there.
Yeah.
Right.
Anybody wants to share what you found most useful today? What do you take with you that you can implement?
Oh, I think all the suggestions for stage fright were very, very helpful. I think all of you for adding to that. Yeah, because I definitely have a phobia too. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
What's your topic, Michelle? What would you talk about?
Well, I'm a psychotherapist, so I have different topics. One is how to be. So I did it a while ago. How to be a friend to yourself and others. It's about compassion and self-compassion, or how to be the most powerful person in the world. Would be good. I have one on fear. Yeah.
It's powerful, powerful. And many of us look at Larry and we think, well, for him it's easy because he looks like Tom Cruise. But we have all these insecurities. My teeth are crooked. I sound like a girl, maybe not so much anymore. What else?
I don't even have a tooth.
Yeah, I have a stupid accent. You know, I mean, I had so many insecurities about. I wanted to go to accent reduction, but it was an hour away. I'm like, I will do it later. I don't want to do it now.
We like your accent.
When I did my first presentation, and as people were standing in line to thank me and congratulate me, a couple of women said that, E.G., I love your accent. I could listen to it for hours. And I'm like, oh my God, I almost got rid of it. I just want to be a regular guy so I can just present like I don't want to be a regular guy anymore. I'm okay with being me. But the key is to just get out there and do it, because too many of us, as Henry David Thoreau said, we go to grave taking our songs with us. Don't take your freaking song with you. Share it with the people. Get out there and do it. And do whatever it takes to be able to get it out there. Practice, join Toastmasters, get coaching. All of us got coaching. Larry got coaching from the world's best coach, from Patricia Fripp. I got coached from the second coolest young lady, June Davidson, 84 years old lady, 84 years. She goes around the world teaching public speaking skills. I wanted to pay her a monthly fee. She's like, no, I need to know that you're committed. She wanted a 1 year commitment. I paid it, changed my life. So yeah, invest in yourself, listen to audiobooks, join Toastmasters, practice whenever you have a chance. Go ahead, Bruce.
One question I have that you didn't address, well, actually two, but one is length of speech. So people often ask you to do a speech and they'll kind of give you the time parameters, but do you have a sense, I mean, TED Talks are 18 minutes. Do you have a sense of what your goal should be in giving a talk in time length?
Yeah, I bet we disagree though. Go ahead, E.G.
No, we don't. I serve mostly corporate clients, and I tell them that my half-day workshop is $7,500. My full-day workshop is $9,500. So they scratch their heads. So they're like, wow, only 2,000 difference. So we'll take the full day. Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that you take the full day. So I love full day presentations. Before a workshop, I sleep like a baby and I go in with anticipation. I can't wait to get in front of the crowd. When I'm invited to do a keynote, so a keynote, it can be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. It depends on the topic. Before a keynote, I cannot sleep for a couple of days. I'm nervous. I have to breathe. I have to do all the techniques to calm myself down. So it's public speaking is not just one beast. It's many different things. So for me, workshops is very easy. You can wake me up in the middle of the night and say, can you present tomorrow morning? I'm like, yeah, let me sleep. I'll be there. But keynote, oh no, I need months or at least weeks to prepare.
So I would say that and when I do half-day workshops, it's 3 hours. 2.5 to 3 hours, and that's it. I find, and that's with a break in the middle. That's as much as people can handle, and I could go on for a full day easily. When I do leadership workshops or speaking coaching, when a keynote, if a client asks me how long it should be, oftentimes a client will say, "Oh, we want you for an hour." What they really mean is they want you for 50 minutes, because the extra 10 minutes is what they use to transition from one event to the next at a conference. I would say that 45 is even better. And I think I start losing people at 40 minutes. I think anybody starts losing people at 40 minutes.
Yeah, if it's a speech. But
Yep,
in workshops, like I do, it's all interactive.
Workshop, I can't get them to leave.
Yeah. So I did lots of government contracts. They are required by their policies to get 30 CC units in the Marine Corps civilian employees, for example, 30 continuing education units per year. And they do it through full day workshops. They were inviting people from all over the country, paying them $15,000 and more per presenter. When their budgets were cut, finally they accepted me to present. And on the feedback form, what the people said is like, finally, a speaker who doesn't make us sit through reading PowerPoints for 6 hours. Because I do group, I break them up in groups. I do interactive activities. I use lots of humor. I use stories, and they are very grateful in the feedback. I have thousands of feedback forms, and the recurring theme was enjoyed your humor, enjoyed your stories, loved the. I say, what would you like more in future events? More interactive activities, more group activities.
And that can be done in a workshop, but not in a keynote.
Yeah. So really quickly, like when I started doing the Marine Corps civilian employees, the HR manager said, EG, give them their break every hour, because if not, they walk out on you and they will come to my office and they will yap in my head the whole day. So I set a timer, the hour is up. I'm like, okay, break time. And they looked very confused. I'm very sensitive to people's emotions. So I'm like, you don't want to break? But, okay. So I set it again for an hour. I'm like, okay, bathroom break. Anybody wants to take a break? One hand goes up, quickly goes down. I'm like, we can take a break. No, I can hold it. So we took one break at noon, no break after that, right? Even though I was warned to give them a break. And so I presented for them for 3 years. I was invited back sometimes twice a week. They trained their employees in groups of 20 to 30 people. And nobody ever walked out on me. So the HR manager's fear was unfounded with me. And I don't think this was legal, but she stopped sending out the RFPs. They always send out the RFPs to all of the presenters, and then they choose the best. After a while, she just would send me an email. She said, EG, do you have a presentation on analytical thinking and problem solving, or whatever topic? She would just send me these emails. And I'm like, yes, I have, even though if I didn't. And it's my favorite. And but the topic had to be something of my passion. And
what's your specialty, EG?
I do most of my workshops are based on the DISC behavioral model. I work with management teams. That's my primary focus. I help them improve performance and manage their teams better. Understand how to recognize different personality styles, understand what motivates them, what are their fears, how to communicate more effectively, how to get engagement better through communication.
So you
how
a
to put people in the
psychologist?
right spots also, the right jobs and all that.
Are you a psychologist by training?
In my heart, yes, but no.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
All right, thank you all very much. If anybody has any last questions,
you know how to reach us.
Yourself, Paula, any questions? No, thank you so much for joining us.
Nothing else?
So this is a whole thing, and you might have covered it, but how do you get speaking jobs? Like if you're just starting, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
That is a big one. That is a big one, yes.
With a little luck.
Is that all I'm gonna get? Okay. I have to have another.
No, you know what?
I'll give you
they won't hire you if they don't know you exist.
Yes, yes. So be visible on LinkedIn. Have posts related to your topic. Ideally, have videos regularly up on LinkedIn. And
he's talking to me when he says that.
Go out in your community. What I did, like I cannot cold call. You would have to hold a gun at my head to pick up the phone and call a company just out of the blue. But I can go in person. So what I did, I went to all of the large organizations in my community, including government organizations, firefighters, police station, everything. I taught police officers, the DEA, drug enforcement, for years. I did workshops with them, for firefighters also. But I would go into these agencies and I will ask these questions, or not agencies, organizations, companies, anything, manufacturing, anything. I would say, do you bring in outside speakers to train your employees for continuing education or employee development and anything? Do you bring in outside speakers? If they say no, thank you, goodbye. If they say yes, do you have a list of providers where you send out your upcoming events? If they say no, then I will say, how do you get these? So if I can find some, then maybe I leave my card, I leave my information. I used to also go with a binder with their company logo and their colors in the binder and my topics, my sheets inside of that thin binder. And usually I would ask to talk to the HR manager, and guess what? 8 out of 10 times they would see me on the spot. But this will not happen to you in New York or some bigger cities. So I lived in the jungle with more friends in the friendly low country in South Carolina. And then if they say yes, and we have a list, I would say, can you please add my name to your list? That's how I got my first, well, my many, not the first ones, because the first ones I got them through volunteering. I would look up, here's another one. If anybody needs to go, you can go, but I will share how I got my first speaking gigs. You type in, like in my case, I will type in leadership event, Asheville, North Carolina, 2024. Request for proposal. Request for proposal, leadership, Asheville, North Carolina. Then I will say the same, but I will say it for Tennessee. I will do one for Georgia, one for South Carolina, because I will drive just in this area. I will say teachers conference, parenting conference, youth conference. So use those keynotes and request for proposal. And
on that same subtopic, E.G., you can go to for example, not the Chamber of Commerce, but the Tourism Board, for example, in San Francisco, and you can see the list of all conferences that are coming to San Francisco for the upcoming year.
Very cool.
I look at that and I get depressed though, because they all want either a basketball star, a politician, or someone who's going to talk about AI. And I'm not any of those things. So I go elsewhere.
I got my very first one. So the first way to get your speaking gigs is to start telling people that you are available to speak.